welcome to the Sports Countdown podcast with Declan Hughes and me, Peter Lynch. This week there's only one matter to discuss, and that is the Champions League final between Chelsea and Manchester City. That's on Saturday night. We're buzzing to be joined by Man City fan and SBI Soccer's Larry Henry Jr. to preview the game with us. Before we get stuck into it, just a quick shout out to Freelance Football Ops, who do a top job in sourcing football media rules. So if you're looking for a job in the industry right now, you can sign up to their newsletter. Just give them a shout on Twitter or LinkedIn.
Larry, thank you for joining us again. How are we doing?
Doing well, Declan. Pete, thanks for having me again. Obviously, holding in all the emotions for this weekend. Could be a great result for the club or also a sad result, but we won't talk about that just yet.
It's fine. You'll be updated on the Sports Countdown podcast Instagram when I'm out with you, and we'll film your reaction. So just you keep it all in until the weekend, right? Anyway, right. Man City. Larry, just wanting your thoughts on how well they've done to get to the final for the first time in their history. How did you make of the group stages and then all the knockout results?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the group stage, it's something that you and me have probably joked about. City getting handed an easy draw every year. Yeah, it's every year now, and it was obviously a favorable draw. The only game that really really kind of gave them trouble was, I think, when they played Porto the first time, and Porto had taken the lead, but we came back and won 3-1, and overall, it was a pretty smooth group stage, 16 points, shutouts all the way through, except that 3-1 win against Porto. That was the only goal they let up in the group stage. So, and a lot of people contributed. A lot of teams we see, there's a lot of the lineup stays the same. When you look at Bayern or maybe Barcelona or other teams, they stick with the same guys every game pending injuries, and Man City did pretty well of rotating. Obviously the league schedule was a bit heavier just because of last season running late, and I think the squad was definitely tested for sure. A lot of rotation, and but it just shows how good the squad is and deep the squad is, and did well through the group stage. And then once again, getting a favorable draw in the round of 16, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and winning 4-0 there. So, and to be fair, I mean, they played Gladbach, who was in a bad run of form at the time too. So I was curious to see how those legs would have went if Gladbach had been in good form. And I think at the time they had lost like 6 of the last 7 or something like that. So they weren't playing particularly well in the league, in the Bundesliga. So, but City did what they do. They got their goals. They kind of sat on the lead. And at that point, by the second leg, it was pretty much all over at that point. The quarterfinal was interesting. I figured Dortmund would give them a better test than Gladbach, and they did. Yeah. I think whenever you have the likes of Erling Haaland and Jadon Sancho and other guys, Gio Reyna, trying to make plays, and I can't forget out Jude Bellingham because he scored one of those legs. But they made it. They gave City a good test, put us under some pressure, and eventually, we got through again pretty easily. With the 4-2 aggregate. So again, a lot of people stepped up. Phil Foden, De Bruyne, Gundogan, and then the semifinal against PSG, which I think a lot of people probably would have wanted that to be the final in some way, or whether it was Man City Bayern or Man City PSG. But overall, it was good performance again, their best performance in the Champions League at that point against a PSG side who eventually ended up losing the league. But, Mbappe was, up for it a little bit. But the first leg was just pretty crazy to watch because it kind of unraveled for PSG. They got the red card and everything like that. And then the second leg, it was, all Man City again. So 4-1 aggregate. So up to this point, the team shows why they're in this situation. You have to give Chelsea a lot of credit coming in too, because they didn't particularly, end their season on a bright note, scraping by top 4 in England and also losing the FA Cup to Leicester, which I'm still happy about that, for the underdog kind of story that Leicester is still. But yeah, it'll be a great final. I think Chelsea has given us trouble already. Knocked us out of the FA Cup. They beat us at the Etihad, basically holding the celebrations for the title. A few days later, ended up clinching it. But they're a good team, very dynamic. Tuchel's done a great job with them, and I think it's going to be a great final.
Spot on. I think we'll even say, like, when you finally face, I mean, Dortmund are a good team, but I think they're kind of a progressing team. It's still going to take them a couple of years to hopefully be a top side again, because they're one of the clubs that I really root for to do well in Europe. But you play PSG, and then Mbappe's out for the second leg, so there's another favourable outcome. One of the best players in the world, he's out. You know what I mean? Fernandinho being a cheater, getting your boy sent off. Just kidding. Making people stomp on each other and all that. But no, that's a good pro. But yeah, they have done exceptionally well this season. We'll get into the players more specifically in a minute. But Pete, as a huge Chelsea fan, I'm just kidding. Chelsea, a club that I don't think anybody expected them to be in this position, especially how they started the season. And even when Tuchel came in, I'll be honest, I was a little bit skeptical of it. I was like, I don't think he's a top coach. I've been proven wrong in this short space of time. So, how do you think? How's Chelsea's route to the final been?
I would say, above all else, not as good as City. I think that's important to say. I don't think anyone's has been as as consistently strong as Man City have in Europe this season. To be fair to Frank, I mean, he got them through the group stages, so I think he deserves a bit of credit. Did it without losing the game.
Oh yeah, but obviously that means Frank Lampard won them the tournament then. As I'm sure we'll all be hearing if that happens on Saturday. Sorry.
I mean, look, but whenever Tuchel took over, it was a completely different team and situation, right? He came in and changed a lot of attitudes there. Obviously on the back of a final himself in the Champions League with PSG the season before, so fresh experience in the tournament. He won a few trophies there in France, won the German Cup as well, I think, at Dortmund. Plenty of honours, but I think this is the one that he would really like to add. He's still young compared to a lot of other managers, but this would be a real statement. Chelsea themselves on the pitch, east past Atletico Madrid in the round of 16. 3-0 against eventual La Liga champions. It's definitely no mean feat. And then with you talk about luck for City, maybe a favourable draw. I think with the quality of teams left, Chelsea got a bit lucky drawing against Porto in that round, because obviously there was still a lot of high quality teams left in the competition. But they still had to come out on top, and they did. Larry mentioned that FA Cup semi-final against City. They had that. I think it was maybe 4 days after that tie against Porto. So, Tuchel, he took a chance, rested some key players, and it paid off because, as we said, they beat City and they knocked out Porto. So it worked out well. Again, another Madrid side in the semis, they were rarely troubled, I feel. They controlled it. Tuchel managed it expertly, I would say, across the two ties. So, and here they are, in another final this season. So that's 2 for him in a short space of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really good final compared to the last couple of games that they've played each other. You mentioned the FA Cup semi-final, and then at the Etihad, Tuchel's kind of had Guardiola's number this season, but this is the biggest one of all. So I'm sure Pep's got something up his sleeve to try and kind of disrupt the way the last couple of games have went. So really looking forward to this game on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Pep there. I think he obviously deserves a lot of credit. All the money that City have spent gets kind of thrown about a lot. But obviously, he's a tactical genius. He knows what he's doing each and every game. Again, another manager with a long list of honours in his trophy cabinet, but he hasn't actually won this competition for 10 years to the day. It is on Sunday maybe. So that was with Barcelona. And as you mentioned earlier, he's failed to reach the final before with City. He's failed to reach these kind of latter stages of the tournament at City. So, I mean, Larry, how would you assess Pep at his time at the club?
Yeah, I think that obviously, I mean, the trophies are most important, but I think the development of a lot of guys is just as key. I mean, there's no real slouches on the team when you look at it, because I mean, De Bruyne really kind of got his career back up and going at City. Obviously, he was at Wolfsburg before that, but did well there. But really is taken off into probably one of the best creative midfielders in the world and playmaking guys. Um, but I think the thing with Pep is he just works well at getting guys ready, getting them familiar with how he likes to play things. I mean, City, obviously they're a team that's going to dominate possession. They're going to dominate chances, and still in some ways I get a little frustrated because maybe they're a little complacent. They're a team that could score 5 goals a game if they want to in the league, and sometimes they might only scrape by with a 2-1 or a 2-0 or something. So I think Pep obviously came in with a lot of expectations. Obviously, I was pumped when they signed him just because of his reputation, and he's done exceptionally well for the club and getting them to this point. And the players obviously deserve tons of credit too, because this has not been an easy year for anybody in Europe, obviously with the pandemic still going on and games coming kind of thick and fast and no fans. Now we're finally getting fans back, which is great. Brings that atmosphere back. So I think that Pep obviously he's not. I don't think he's going to be judged just off that result if they do lose or something like that, because he's done so well with this team to keep them going after managerial changes in the past. And they've set the standard now. And not I think in England obviously teams want to be like them in the way they play and rack up the goals, but also be one of the best defensive teams in Europe. And I just think that he deserves all the credit. Not all the credit. Obviously, deserves a lot, but the players have done it extremely well, and the way that the signings that he's made have all contributed. I mean, Ruben Diaz, I think, is my pick easily for the player of the year, because he's done exceptionally well in the back, and defensively they've been putting up some crazy numbers. And Ferran Torres has done well in his time. Obviously, has put in some good recent performances. And then, keeping those older guys, like the Fernandinhos and the, Agueros. I mean, I know Aguero hasn't played a lot, but he's done well recently. And I think he's going to have a big say on Saturday in what's going to be his last game as a City player. Going to get a little emotional on Saturday after all his memories there. The famous title winning year when he scored that goal against QPR. Comes back. But I think Pep deserves tons of credit, but the players do as well.
Yeah, I mean, like with Guardiola, like I feel like I'm really fascinated by him. I read a lot of books like on his tactics, and then like I'm like a biography on him as well. But then you look at, as Pete said, you talk about all the money that he spends, and he's fairly done that since he's been at Man City, and even you could say Bayern Munich. But at Barcelona, like he really brought through a great crop of players. I know Messi was in the team already, but I think he made Messi become the player that he is today, how good he is and how well he understands his role on the field. But then he brought through Sergio Busquets came through under Pep, Pedro, like these kind of guys. Piqué then really became the centre half that he was or is today, so like he can spend this money, but he really does develop them into even better players. You could say that with Diaz as well, De Bruyne. Like Aguero was always a talent, but I feel as though he's been fantastic under Guardiola for 2 or 3 seasons, was probably his peak. And then Phil Foden, as we mentioned. Look, like Pep's got big praise of Phil Foden as being the next best young player he's had since Messi, so that's high praise and a lot of pressure. But Foden's really looking a threat, and as a Scotsman, I'm not looking forward to possibly having him playing against us next month. Like I think he's a real threat, a real talent, and he's doing a great job playing the false kind of 9, like the way I think City will go on Saturday. I think they'll go with like De Bruyne, Foden, and Mahrez as like the forward 3, with De Bruyne and Foden maybe switching that kind of false 9 role. So again, a lot of tactics to talk about. We could sit and talk about that all day, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Saturday.
Yep.
But speaking of the players, Larry, have you got some, maybe 2 or 3 players that are going to be are going to be key for Man City on Saturday?
Yeah, I think obviously it's going to be interesting how Pep lines the squad up, because everyone's probably, obviously eager to play and be out there, and there's probably 100 different lineup combinations he can go with against Chelsea and try to change things up to what Tuchel has seen before from them. So number one, I think the guy you said, Phil Foden, I think he's going to have an impactful game. This is the biggest moment, of his career at club level, and he's had a really outstanding season. Has really come into his own, and not only scoring goals, but getting himself into good position, setting up teammates, making it difficult for opposing defenders. So I think he's going to have a big role on Saturday. I think definitely, should be starting Saturday with the season he's had. And could be, the biggest, chance of his club career, and could set him into a really great future for the club. So I think number one would be Phil Foden. Number two, it was tough kind of come up with this, was because a lot of people have been so consistent, but I think Ruben Diaz, again, this is probably the biggest game of his career, and he's up there, obviously player of the year. I know there's some other guys, Bruno Fernandes and others, but the way that Diaz has just come in seamlessly and not really made any mistakes, he's come in and kind of led the back line, and they've done really well. Nice structure and everything. And he just wins a lot of balls in the air, defensively, very smart player, works the ball around good. So I think he's going to have his hands full in a little bit just with how Chelsea play. I don't think Chelsea are going to be sitting back and being content. They're going to want to go after Man City. I think that's the way you beat Man City, is you don't just sit back and let them control the tempo and wait for your counters. I think you have to attack them, and I think Chelsea's going to do that. So Diaz is going to have to be important, leading the back line, getting everyone on the same page. Whether, whoever we see leading the line for Chelsea, whether it's Timo Werner, I know he hasn't lived up to expectations so far in the Chelsea shirt. Kai Havertz, whoever gets the nod, Pulisic maybe, floating in the middle a little bit. So I think Diaz is going to have a big game and continue to show why he's been, player of the year material. And number three, I think it's going to come down to whoever probably gets the start at the main forward, whether it's Aguero or Jesus. I think Aguero is going to get the start just because it is going to be his last game with Man City. And I think in this situation, you want him to start. I mean, Gabriel Jesus does a lot of good things, but he's not Sergio Aguero. And Aguero has, put up an outstanding goal record for the club in his game. So I think that, having a veteran guy like him to be able to, maneuver around the box, get into good situations. And I think the thing with him too is he's not afraid to shoot. Gabriel Jesus and sometimes Raheem Sterling, they're a little complacent. They try to do too much. Raheem Sterling seems to always want to just walk the ball into the back of the net. And Aguero is just a straight shooter, and he's going to take shots and take chances. And I think in that game, you're going to want to try to take every chance you can get to score and hopefully get in, multi-goal lead and everything. So I think Aguero will get the nod. I think it'd be a great way for him to end his career at Man City with leading them to the, first Champions League of their history, and ending his already successful career on a higher note.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that you think Aguero will start, because I just kind of said I think they'll go with the false nine, but then thinking about it, like they've tried that against Chelsea, so maybe that's what we're just kind of saying, that Guardiola will change it up and go with an out-and-out striker like Aguero. So I'm saying, like, if you want to score goals, why not have one of the best players to play? Well, probably Man City's best, possibly the best player of all time. Why would you not play him in the final? So that's definitely an interesting perspective, Larry, on that.
It's a fantasy football scenario. All season you just can't decide which City player to put in your team because Pep's going to change his selection every single week. So
it's impossible to pick a City player. Very good. So I don't think any of us could sit here and actually write out the actual lineup, because there'll be something in there, But Pete, do you want to provide some balance and say maybe some Chelsea players or key matchups that will be important in this game?
Yeah, Larry touched on it. pretty, exactly what I was just about to say. I mean, Timo Werner, I think he's going to start up top, and he's in a side that creates a ridiculous amount of chances, but sadly for him, he's not been able to finish them this season. And even worse for him, he's coming up against Diaz, who we don't need to talk anymore about. He's just been outstanding. John Stones as well, a player who's really improved under Guardiola. And then Ederson as well in the goal, which he's Premier League Golden Glove for 2 years in a row now. 19 clean sheets in the league this season, so that'll be an exciting one. I think Werner's lacking in confidence, definitely. I mean, what Chelsea are like. He could be gone this summer if he doesn't live up. If he doesn't deliver in these big games, especially you have. I don't want to fuel any transfer rumors, but I mean, Harry Kane looks to be on the move. Haaland as well. Lewandowski, I've even heard, could be on the move. And Inter Milan, I think, have a few struggles with money, so they could be releasing Lukaku, Martinez up front. So Werner might not have much time, so it could be a big game for him. I would say Olivier Giroud, huge fan of him. He's got 6 goals in the Champions League this season. Only Haaland and Mbappe have more, and he just doesn't get a look in at all. It's really frustrating because I really like him. And then considering the club's top goal scorer in the Premier League this season was Jorginho, with 7. All 7 of his were penalties. So there's a stat for you.
Oh, so he's just Chelsea's Fernandes then. Got you.
Exactly. Well, didn't work out for United in the penalties. Say no more. So that'll be a key one. Last one is just, we talked about it already, De Bruyne and Phil Foden. I think those two have to start, whether it's in that, false 9 role that you said, and, maybe Foden on the left wing and De Bruyne in the middle against that Chelsea defence, because they've been really watertight as well under Tuchel, led by Thiago Silva, big game player. But then, De Bruyne and Foden, I think, are just on a completely different level to a lot of other players out there at the minute. 2 great dribblers, eye for a pass, eye for a goal. Another stat I would throw at you, most direct goal involvements for City in all competitions this season is De Bruyne 28, Foden 26. And lastly, Foden, first player to score 30 goals for Guardiola before turning 21. And even Lionel Messi couldn't manage that. So I think people forget how young Foden actually is for the talent that he is. But I think Pep kind of, managed him pretty well to get to this stage. So yeah, for me, that'll be the key areas where the game could be won and lost.
Yeah. So, but you heard here first that Giroud's going to be the game winner then.
I'd love it for him because I think he could be gone at the end of the season. I think he needs regular playing time for the goals he scores. He seems to score in every match. But he just doesn't get a look in, and it's really frustrating.
I'll take him at Celtic, get him up there. A nice, just a beautiful and handsome man up there, just to nod the ball home. Super sub, absolutely. Nah, he'll start for us, surely. Anyway, good stuff. I know, fellas, we could talk about this all day. This needs to be a 2-hour special because there's just so much we could talk about. But we'll go with Larry. We've given you your top. You already gave us a top 3. I think you were trying to get out of doing this because we know you've not got not much to talk about. We're still going to ask you anyway. So, Larry, top 3 for you is top 3 Manchester City UEFA Champions League moments. We had a little giggle off air, knowing that there's not been too many really good ones. Both Peter and myself have experienced success with our clubs. So you're obviously hoping to join the club and join the one club with me at Celtic. So I look forward to welcoming you possibly, but we'll assume maybe that'll be your number 1 this time next week. But have you got any other moments that in the Champions League really pleased you as a City fan?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I could probably make a top 10 of the worst moments. The Tottenham game in the quarterfinals in 2018 obviously still brings back bad memories. Our friend Anto Pillock still rubs it in to this day. Lyon last year in the quarterfinal, but the good moments, obviously, I remember a couple obviously group stage games back in the earlier kind of 2013, 14, stuff like that. 2016, I know that year we didn't do particularly well in the Premier League, finishing 4th, but and eventually we did lose to Monaco, led by a guy named Kylian Mbappe, who ended up becoming a star since then. But that group stage, I do remember beating Barcelona 3-1, which was obviously anytime I think you could beat Barcelona in the Champions League. Maybe not as strong now, but back then was winning La Liga or winning trophies every year. So that was a good memory for sure. That was a home game, and we won 3-1, and obviously a lot of hype around that result. And then probably two, I remember even before that, playing a couple group stage games. I think it was like three or 4 years in a row we got paired with Bayern in the same group. 2011, 12, finished third in the league, but I remember beating Bayern 2-0 in the group stage. I know we ended up dropping out and going in the Europa League, and eventually ended up losing to Sporting Lisbon in the round of 16 of the Europa League. But so I remember beating Bayern, obviously, again, a team that is always, when you beat them, obviously it's a special moment. Beat them again a few years later in the group stage before losing to Barcelona in the round of 16. And obviously, I think the number one moment has to be the most recent beating PSG, because I remember a lot of people thinking that PSG wasn't going to walk over Man City, but would have probably advanced just because Mbappe, and he would have been the best forward that Man City would have been going up against, and to really kind of keep him in check, and Neymar as well, doing well against them and getting to this moment. It's like, you play your toughest teams at the end of the road, and beating PSG and setting up what should be a great stage on Saturday, I think has to be the number one moment of my time watching the club.
Yep. So just Moussa Dembele, those two words must just haunt you, Larry. I think he scored four goals in 2 games against them for Celtic and Leon, so that must haunt you.
Oh yeah, it was. I still remember the Celtic games like it was yesterday, because I remember, I think that was the year we had the orange and purple alternate jersey, and I remember was it 3-3 Celtic Park, and then obviously against Lyon last year, and I knew I was going to take some slack from you after that result. So
yeah, I mean, remember being at it as well, and I think I remember texting you as well and saying we could exploit John Stones at centre back, and I think we actually did do it that game. So that's before John Stones has improved this season, but back then your boy was calling it. But those are great moments, Larry. You can't beat a little group stage win. Hopefully a big one comes at the weekend. We'll see. Pete, would you like to share any nice Champions League moments before we call it?
From City or from the Reds?
Just the Reds, obviously, the Red men.
The Red, there's too many to count for Liverpool, I'm afraid. I wouldn't want to bore you guys.
No, I'd love to then just give a little shout out to obviously being at the Celtic Barcelona game, talking about Barcelona being in their prime, and we beat them 2-1. I think I was lucky to be at that game. Tony Watt scoring the winner, so I've had some great experiences going to the games. Hopefully I can get back one day. But Larry, it's been a pleasure having you on again, sir. You've joined the 2 Club with Ryan Roberts as the most guest appearances on the show. So hopefully we'll have you on again, talk some MLS. Maybe we'll have you number 3, be number 1.
Yeah, sounds good. Anytime. I'm sure I'm going to hear some bragging from Ryan about how his performances were better than mine, but as we know him. But yeah, no, it's all good. Thanks for having me, and yeah, we'll touch on some MLS. Obviously, Philadelphia Union doing well right now, and a lot of U.S. men's national team, big games coming up for them.
Yeah, we know Ryan's he's a humble man. He doesn't like to brag about anything. But yeah, I mean, we didn't even talk about the fact that an American player's going to win the Champions League this year, no matter what. Zach Steffen or Christian Pulisic. So that's good for US soccer. So yeah, definitely something I can touch on again at some point.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Appreciate that. Larry, wishing City all the best on your behalf. Me and Declan kind of have to stay neutral, so I guess we just wish for a decent game of football.
Love a decent game, mate. Love it.
Absolutely. So yeah, appreciate your time, guys. Enjoy the game. And to our listeners, wherever you are, thank you so much for all the support. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the big game. Sit back and relax. Best night of the year, in my opinion. But
not this year when we're celebrating a Scotland win against England in the Euros, June 18th. That'll be the best night of the year.
We'll see. We'll see.
We're waiting, baby. We're doing it.
Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the game, guys, and everyone. We'll be back for more next week. All the best.